You're listening to Discussions with Justin.
All right. Just making sure.
Yeah.
All right, Bonnie, we're rolling. How are you?
So I'm doing well. How are you?
I can't complain. I'm just trying to make it through the winter to get over these winter blues and bring on the sunshine.
Yes, I'm ready for that too. Although I live in sunny Texas on the coast, and so we don't get snow. We get rain and cold.
Well,
So
I live up here in Cape Breton, and when we get snow that pretty much cripples us for about a week.
we don't know what that's like. We don't. Yeah. If any chance of snow, everybody's excited. Like, oh, we don't have to go to school because the buses can't run in the snow.
It's quite the experience. You should come up and experience a Canadian winter sometime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have never been to Canada, but I'm sure it's a great winter and very picturesque, I'm sure. So
Yeah. So, I don't know if you follow the news or anything. Were you watching about the TikTok ban? Do you use TikTok at all?
I do. I am on TikTok. Yeah. I've been watching a little bit about that and like fingers crossed it doesn't go away, but yeah, I don't know what the US is going to do.
I know and it's a shame because there's so many people that's their livelihood. That's how they make their living, right? But
Yes. Yes.
it's going to be interesting to see the outcome of it because there's some people got millions of followers, hundreds of thousands of followers, and now they're gone.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, the financial aspect, people rely on that to pay their bills. So
I mean, leave them alone. What's it hurting, right?
Exactly.
This day and age, I mean, COVID really crippled the world.
It did.
So if that's how they're getting ahead, then let them be.
Exactly. Let them be. And I think the whole data security stuff, I'm sure my information's out there. If y'all want my credit score, that's fine.
right here, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because I was doing a podcast, my first episode, I was talking to a gentleman from the UK and he was talking about extraterrestrial life and the drones in the States. And then the next thing you know, everything on my phone come up about drones. I had people on TikTok following me that own drone companies and it was crazy.
They listen to us very often, all the time. So, yeah.
But we're here to talk about mediation.
Yeah.
So let's get to know you and how you get into it. And then maybe we'll start with the question of what is mediation?
Perfect. Yeah. So by trade, originally I was a high school teacher. I started out in science and then I moved into special education, helping and teaching students with disabilities. And then from there, I transitioned out of the classroom after about a decade because it's a taxing profession for sure, and transitioned out and became an advocate for parents to get their children with disabilities what they need in schools, essentially. And I knew I could be more effective outside of the classroom than I ever could be inside of the classroom because those state entities in the schools paid my paycheck. So essentially I had to say what they wanted me to say. And so I knew I could be a voice for these kids and get them exactly what they needed. So I opened an advocacy service. And so I, was an advocate for a couple of years and I still do that. I still have some amazing clients that I will always have. And then also got certified to become a mediator because part of that was I reflected on my career as a teacher and as an advocate and realized that 90% of what I was doing was conflict resolution. I was always the middleman between the school and the parents and figuring out how can we come to a common ground. Same thing with parents and admin and everybody involved in the school system when I was a teacher. It was always,
that's not an easy job neither, communicating with the parents and your place of work and you're the, that is a stressful job for sure.
100%.
I wouldn't want it.
Yes, it was very taxing. And so that was where, like I said, kind of reflecting on all of that, I'm like, oh, I've been doing this. I have these skills. I know how to help people come to resolution. I can remove my biases and I can remove my feelings from situation and help them understand what they want, why they want it, and how can we both live in harmony? How can we both get this settled and get it off the table? So I decided to, again, get certified as a mediator and start helping people come to resolution on their terms. And so my niche or my specialty is dealing with relationships and dealing with couples who not seeing eye to eye right now. So my goal is that we don't get you two divorced. We want to fix this before we're going to go our separate ways, if that's possible. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not a therapist. I'm not I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. But mediation is such a good catalyst to be able to, again, solve those conflicts on your terms to where everybody comes to like win-win agreements, right? We don't take sides, right? We are, when we do our intakes, we know this client and we don't take sides. We take our feelings out of that. And so I think that's the beauty of it, is to have that third neutral.
Well, like you said, you're the middle person. You're going between lawyer to lawyer. You're trying to, like you said, not to get too divorced, but you're also you're saving money by going down this route, right?
Yes, 100%. And so that's our goal, is to keep people out of courts, because courts are going to, they're going to take a long time, right? You're not going to settle this conflict in a week like we can do
or a day or anything.
No, you're not going to do that. So that's going to take a while. And the costs, right? Us mediators, there's not a $5,000 retainer fee that you might have to pay an attorney.
And that's just for an attorney. That's not counting court fees or anything else.
Yes. And then their hourly rate, right? That's just to get the attorney onto your, okay, I'll take your case, but then I'm going to bill you hourly once that is done. So, and nothing against attorneys, right? I know some that are amazing litigators, and there's a place for that. I always preface my conversations about mediation with that as well, is that obviously not all things can be mediated, but if you have the two parties that are willing to mediate, that's the third kind of pillar of mediation, is the voluntariness of it, is that you both see there's an issue and we both can come together to resolve that. And I think the other part the fourth pillar that's amazing is the confidentiality of it. There is no court record. You don't become part of the public record. You do all of this between me, that party, and that's it. My lips are sealed. Their lips are sealed. You don't have to talk about anything that you decide.
Don't want to. Yeah.
So,
no. Like I said, I think, like we were talking before we started recording, I think it's a better way to go if you can. Because, we'll go back to the family thing, okay? We have a child, the mother and the father, but at this point, they both hate each other. It's not about the child's best interest anymore. It's about how can I hurt you and how can I hurt you? And they'll go as far as spending $20,000, $30,000 when they really could have said, you know what? Here's what I want. Here's what I want. Bring it to you, and then you kind of, you're the middle person, right?
Yeah. Let's sit down and talk through this and figure out, again, what is your interest behind that position? If I say I have to have this, there's a reason why I'm asking for this, and we can probably come to a resolution between what you're asking and what the other party is needing as well. So it's a great avenue.
No, it is. Now you mentioned you had to go be certified for this. Now, where your background as a school teacher was, did you have to take a special course for this as well, or?
Yes. So here in the States, most states do require, it's usually like a 40-hour course. You can go above and beyond that if you need to. But yes, there's like special training that talks about, ADR and the different type, which is alternative dispute resolution, and the different types of that. So my big comparison, I guess, is like Judge Judy, right, on TV. She's an arbitrator. So she looks at evidence, you bring evidence, she makes her judgment, and she, lays down, this is what we're going to do. And mediation is kind of one step before that. We don't view evidence. You don't have to bring any type of folder or binder or anything to me. We talk about all of that in our sessions. We gather a lot of information before the actual mediation, and then when we sit down in the mediation, that's when we have those real conversations with the parties. But yes, there's a certification component to it, to kind of understand how to talk to people, the probing questions that you need to ask, understanding the process of mediation and how you go from, starting in your opening statements all the way down to that negotiation phase and into your final agreement.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what are some misconceptions of mediation? What are some big things that you see that are?
I think the big one is that it's just attorneys can do this. I think that's a big one that I've encountered, is that you have to be a lawyer, you have to be an attorney, and there's no laws that I'm aware of that prevent individuals from appointing someone as that neutral third party, right? It could be whoever, right? It could be your best friend. If you can come to agreement with that person being the neutral facilitator, then you have that right to solve your own disputes. And so I think that goes back to what, like, I think we were talking before, is that the way many modern societies view conflict as that winner and their loser. So I think that's a good misconception as well, is that there has to be a loser in this. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. You don't come out of a mediation where one person is like beaten against the wall and they're the punching bag and they got nothing that they wanted, because that's not the meaning of it. That's not what we're there for. And if you have come out of a mediation like that, you didn't have a good mediator. You didn't have
because like you said, you're the middle person. It's like, okay, you go to this person's lawyer, okay, she's asking for this, which I don't think is too much, and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's not too much that they're asking for, and I like, and then it goes back to why though. Why do you want your child on this day? Like, then it's to find out why, right?
Yeah, it's always asking why and kind of figuring out what can work for both of you. And I think, again, through the training, there's always like validating people. I think that's what I try to do as a mediator, is hear people, because I think a lot of times when we're in the midst of a conflict, we stop hearing each other. I guess active listening is what's huge, is because we hear what they say, but we're so in the midst of the emotions that we don't really hear what they say. We're not understanding that. So I think my job is validating that, your fear or your interest or all of that is valid. Those are valid feelings. Those are valid emotions that you bring to this table. So let's figure out, where can we go with that? Because sometimes they do get very raw. Your emotions get very raw and very pumped up, and your adrenaline and your amygdala is hijacked in your brain.
You're acting before you're thinking. You're reacting to the situation before you think the situation out. And
exactly. And so it's my job to be the thinker for you. It's my job to help you sort all of those emotions and help you sort all of that out, so that we can come to something rational. We can come to a decision that you're happy with, that the other party is happy with, and lead that conversation forward to agree.
Yeah. Like earlier when we were talking, you said, we don't want you to get you too divorced. But what do you think mediation does to, like, because you're pretty much at the end anyway, if you're looking into this stuff, how do you think that helps, like, even parents to co-parent, or like, how do you think mediation helps that relationship?
It opens the door to communication, right? It opens the door to understanding, again, those interests and figuring out how we can make this work. Because if you have kids, clearly you're going to have to deal with that person for a really long time. So how can we sort through those emotions? How can we sort through all of the junk that's going on, and again, get down to the root of your child's success, or, taking your feelings out of the marriage, or we're going to divorce, or whatever it may be, and getting to something that, again, works for us both. It's like really down to communication. It really comes down to, how can we facilitate the conversations, the communication between the parties to come up with solutions.
Now, what are some challenges that you face in mediation?
Some challenges, I think, sometimes is getting both parties on board, right? You can't do a mediation that's one-sided. It has to be voluntary, right? Both parties have to agree.
Yeah, because you must bump into hard-headed, level-headed people, or hard-headed people are like, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not agreeing to nothing. And it's like,
that I'm like, no, I just want to go to court, or I want to pay my lawyer to do this, or my attorney, and that's okay. You're not a fit for mediation, but if you can get on the same page with, your spouse, and you want to save time, you want to save money, you want to get something in place, then mediation is a great route, because, again, our goal is to strengthen that. So on my website, my slogan or tagline or whatever is, turning conflict into connection, one conversation at a time, right? We want to have those meaningful conversations so that we build a new connection, right? It may not be the love of our life that we used to have in this marriage, but we're still going to have some type of connection through our kids. And so let's make the most of that. Let's make this meaningful, because at the end of the day, it's your child that you're
Well,
learning.
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, you say, well, I want to pay my, the person says, I want to pay my lawyer, my attorney, and court fees and whatever. But think of long term. That
Yeah.
30, 40, $100,000, you have a
Yeah.
child growing up that could take that
Yeah.
money and put it. Don't,
Yeah.
like you say, don't react to the situation. Think about
Yes.
it long term
Yes.
first.
Yes. And you can invest that money in your child and save a ton of money by coming to mediation. And I also tell, my clients is we're not one and done, right? We say we signed an agreement in January and we were good at that table. We finished it out. We were okay. Now we're implementing that agreement phase. But we get to June and something in the family dynamic changes, right? We're moving now, or the daughter or son is going to middle school and that's going to affect bus routes, or that's going to affect pickup times and stuff. Like, these are fluid documents as well. They can change over time, and they should. And so you can come back to mediation. You can come back to me in June and say, hey, this part of it, we need to agree on now because it's just not working for our family anymore, right? Toddlers grow up into teenagers. I know that situation. So when they get a little older, your circumstances change. So let's go back to the table instead of going back to court.
Okay, so when you you say mediation, and everything, like, is there a court order done up with families, or like,
There- Yeah,
so
there
say we
can
went in April and we did this, and
be.
come June, like, I can go back and say, for example, and say, I need to change this date because my job, I can't pick my child up after. You can do that?
Right. Yeah. You can change your agreement. Now,
Oh, wow.
if you don't want the court involved at all, you can voluntarily just keep that agreement, again, confidential between you and the other party, and agree that you're going to abide by those terms. Then if either party isn't, then you can go to the judge and say, look, we went to mediation. We came up with this agreement. They're not abiding by it. Now I need to go the legal route, right? You can do that. But, most of my clients, we don't submit anything to the court. We just have that agreement in place and we are saying we're going to abide by it. And then again, we can come back in June or July or whenever next year and kind of amend it and say, okay, this is not working for our family anymore. Let's fix that. So
So what do you think happens, like for a person, like, they go to mediation, they're agreeing to everything, and then all of a sudden, it just, when they get out of there, it's like, weeks going good, and then it just stops. What do you think changes and why?
I think that can be a, a variety of things. I know I have a policy that and some mediators don't, but I have a policy that I don't leave the mediation until that agreement is signed by both parties. Because as soon as one party leaves, they're going to get on the phone. They're going to talk to a friend or Sally or grandma or somebody and say, don't you agree to that? Like, don't,
Yeah.
So I think, family influence sometimes comes into it, or
Oh,
friends.
it has a huge,
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
influence on it.
Yeah. Where they're just like, no, you shouldn't have signed that. You shouldn't agree to that. But again, I think the power of solving your own disputes, the power that you have as an individual to say, okay, I'm going to do this because it's in the best interest of myself, of my, former partner, whoever, my current partner. And again, that's the power that you have because you can solve it, whereas you don't have to have a judge or someone else telling you this is what you're going to do. This is why you're going to do it. So I think, in my view, it's very freeing. It's a very, freeing experience to know that I have control of that situation, that I don't have to tell, a judge doesn't have to tell me I can only see my kids once a month or every other week or something. I can agree to something with the other parent and come to a resolution that works for us and for our family. And I think explaining that to people that, you're going to have that outside noise coming in. That's
Oh,
like, why do you
absolutely.
agree to that? Because it
And
works for me. You know?
and I always tell people, try to put that outside noise in, because it's you're in the situation, not them. It's easy for them. Well, I
Yeah.
would do this and I would do
Yeah.
that. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and mediation's not working because you got so much outside
Yeah.
interference,
Yeah.
It's like, would they really do it? Would they really risk putting their house up for mortgage to be able to afford
Yeah. It's
I'm
always,
trying to say,
it's easier to look in and give
yeah,
judgment
oh,
than to live in.
absolutely, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So,
So how do you think mediation, like, over time, like, how do you think it's evolved?
so I think it's always been around, but I have found that it is very gate kept, so to
Mhm.
speak, that I think people just don't know about it, right? People just don't know that it's an option to solve your problems. I think we've become such a society of, oh, I don't agree with you, like even like a landlord and a tenant, I don't agree with you. I'm just gonna go sue you in court. Well,
Yeah.
we gotta step back and think again of all of the cons of going that route, right? It takes forever. It's gonna cost you money. Like, I mean, my husband just evicted someone from one of his rental properties. And again, that took time, right?
Yeah.
She
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
living there. He's still not being paid rent. We had to
Yeah.
go to court. Like, all of that just takes time. But again, there's a place for mediation, and not every conflict can be solved with it, obviously. But it should be a consideration, right? If you want to save time, you want to save money, you want to avoid going to court and all of that, because I can get you in and out of a mediation in like a week. Like, right? We can
Right.
start on
And
a
you still
Monday
got
and we
thirty
can be
thousand
out
dollars in
Friday.
your pocket.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and save all of those court fees, the lawyer's fees, all of that. So, I
I
think when
think
you really
too.
break it down, then having those conversations of all of the pros and cons that people just aren't aware of. It's very gate kept.
Yeah, and I think too, like it's that mentality of even like you see stuff on the movies, like the attorneys and everything.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
everyone's no, we're going to court.
yeah,
I'm not having nothing to do with this. We're
yeah,
going to court, and
yeah. We're just gonna go straight to court. Yeah,
but just
and you don't have to.
educate yourself. Read up on it, and
Yeah,
yes, obviously mediation sometimes just two people can't. They hate each other to the point that it doesn't
yeah,
matter. It's even to a
exactly.
judge sometimes they'll
Right.
try to overstep their boundaries, right?
Right, absolutely, and that's what I try to educate people and let them know that it's not always a fit, right?
Mhm.
If again, like you said, if you hate each other so much and you can't think clearly, then that may not be a route for you. This may not be a route that you want to take because you just can't see through that anger or that pain or that emotion right now. And you might have to have a judge to tell somebody what to do if you're that stubborn and you can't, abide by the rules. But most level-headed people who, let's say we're not at the point that we hate each other. Those are the times to start having the conversations
Yeah.
about mediation before we get into those strong emotions where it's like, I don't want to even look at your face anymore
Yeah, or
because
but then I find too it's not greed, but it's well I'm going after half of this now,
yeah, yeah,
and it's like well wait now I got my backup, so
yeah,
yeah it's good like if you can do whatever on good terms and
yeah,
get the important stuff out of the way, then worry about the material stuff later, like
yeah, exactly.
because I mean at the end of the day I don't think anyone really wins anyway when it's all got to be sold, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. So, how can
Hmm.
we make this beneficial for both parties involved? So,
Yeah. So how stressful is it on you, like through a run of a session? How many sessions a day do you do?
that varies, but mediations can be, I would never schedule more than one a day because they can run long, right? There's no
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
I'm not gonna
absolutely.
cut you off at 2 hours and be like, get out, right? But
Yeah.
I don't do them in person. They're all like this. So
Okay.
it's not yeah,
Oh,
it's
so they don't even have to go to a
no,
courthouse or no. Wow.
you don't have to go to a courthouse anymore. You don't have to sit in the same room with the person. You can do it all. That's the
Yeah.
beauty, I think, of COVID that opened up all of this,
Yeah. But like,
and
can they have an attorney present with them? Oh, they are
yeah.
allowed to. Okay.
They are absolutely allowed to have an attorney. The attorneys typically don't speak. They don't talk during the mediation. So they're, if the attorney wants,
Observing.
yeah, they're just observing. If they want to interject and they want to say anything, then we'll put them in a breakout room with their client so they can counsel their client because you're not counseling both, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
circle me and yeah. So they all go to their own room and talk about whatever the issue is and then come back. Because again, um, this is my mediation. This is not the attorney's mediation. If they wanted to be the mediator, go for it on your own
So it's your
Zoom
rules kind
or
of
whatever.
thing. Like,
But yeah, it is our rules, which we established at the very beginning. We have opening statements where I talk to I kind of prep them and set the tone for the mediation, and then they each come with what they want to get out of today, and yeah, at that point the attorneys can sit there and not say anything. And sometimes we shuttle. So that's a form of mediation where I'll go talk to party A and see what they have going on and then come back to the room and let party B know. So You can caucus and leave at any time and be able to speak one-to-one. If they have something they don't want to share with the other party, you can talk directly to the mediator. Sometimes you don't have to even see the other party. You can do entire shuttle mediation if you need, where I talk to you, like it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, you don't even have to be in the same
the same
Zoom
bubbles.
meeting, whatever it is.
You don't
Yeah.
have to be in the same meeting. You don't have to be in the same zip code, anything like that. So yeah, lots of advantages.
Well, you seem very passionate about it. So my next question is, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself moving up in the ranks, or?
So I'm private practice, so I don't do any court mediations or and I don't like work for the court system or anything. Like, I'm a private practice. I do it all on my
Oh, wow.
on my own. So I don't I'm not employed by any entity as far as it goes for that. So yeah, it's like a private practice of any
Where
other.
I'm from, I don't know if we have private. I think it's funded through the court. I don't know. I'd have to check that now. You got me interested.
Yeah. Yeah. And here in the States, I mean, like I said, there's no laws against you appointing your own mediator to, get it resolved. Some courts do appoint a mediator based on their their caseload at that point, I guess, or their specialty, if it's a business transaction or something like that, and not relationship based, then yeah, they have like a list of mediators that you pull from. I know from my time in the school systems, those mediators are assigned by the state, so they're employed by the education agency in that state, and they work with the parent and the school and come to resolution. Those that I've been a part of, I don't know how to describe them. Those we never saw the other party, so that was entirely shuttle mediation. They weren't good.
Okay.
A little.
Yeah.
The ones I was a part of. But yeah, so there's different routes that you can take, but ADR and alternative dispute is huge. And I think another thing that people don't realize is the need for it in so many industries, right? Like, you can be a mediator in, like I said, landlord-tenant disagreements. You can specialize. I have a couple colleagues, one that specializes in like end-of-life agreements for people who are setting up their estates when their loved one is at the end of their life, and they're setting up the estate and the will. Another one deals with just like performance reviews and through big companies and the disputes that come along with that. When the employee doesn't agree with the manager's review and she comes in, and how do they get to a point, or how do they get to resolve this conflict without the employee leaving and the manager, firing them or whatever. And that's another one, like wrongful termination. So there's a million and one.
There's a million. I always thought it was just family and divorce. No, so there's like a ton of things in.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. So, I have another colleague who just deals with schools. Like, they just deal with, the schools, and one deals with mainly relationships, but on like the parent-teen aspect. So those agreements look a little bit different because the teenagers aren't legal adults. So we're not signing any documents or anything like that. But it's a way to foster that communication. And I saw that quite a bit as a teacher at the high school level, where some of my students, they weren't living with mom and dad anymore, and it's like, why are you living with your friend on their couch? Because again, we don't have the communication skills in place. We don't have the ability or the skills to come together and figure out what's going on. So she deals with a lot of that type of mediation. So yeah, if you Google like mediation,
I'm going to, yeah.
Yeah. Even the IRS. So I know, like in not Texas, in the US, we have that IRS that takes our taxes, but they have mediators on staff to deal with tax disputes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's everywhere.
I think we have them up here, like for that stuff too. But like when I think of mediation, like the first thing I thought of was divorce.
Yeah.
And custody battle.
Yeah. And it's so much more than that. There's so many, like I said, different areas that need conflict resolution specialists, because conflict is just innate to the human experience, right? It's always going to be there. It's always been there.
Absolutely.
But we don't have to go to war for every single
thing. No, I know. So my next question would be, and I don't know if you would deal with this yourself or would this be another person then, but like say the child is they're giving the voice to the child of what parent the child wants to live with. Like, do you do that kind of cases, like where the son wants to live with the dad, but the mom wants him to live there, but the dad, say for example, is willing to give 3 days a week. Do you do that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, that comes up a lot in divorces, is the custody arrangements and things like that. So that's not what I specialize in, but I do know of divorce mediators who, they deal with things like that. And then they actually can submit that agreement to the judge. And here in Texas, you do have to go through mediation before you ever get to your divorce. So there's a lot of different ways. But that is something that can come up in a mediation session, again, because if we're both on the same page that we want to get this done, then again, that can be written into the agreement and submitted to the court. So, yeah.
So, and I'm sure you've seen different cases, some, a lot difficult than others. How do you handle that? Like, how do you go through your day to day after that's done? Like, does it play on your mind afterwards, or you can just be like, shut that switch off and...
Usually I just shut that switch off and
Oh, wow.
about my next day. I mean, you do think of things, like some things resonate with you a little more. And, you just, at the end of the day, I just have to remember that I provided them a service and I hopefully got them to, amicably agree on something. And that, that's very rewarding in and of itself, that they trusted me to mediate out that situation. So, again, there's some situations that are like, ooh, that comes up and you got to have that poker face on. But, but at the end of the day, no, it's not something that I take personally or something that I, dwell on or think about,
Okay. No, because, some people, they say take their job home with them. I was just...
Yeah.
Because, like, you mentioned that you were a special education teacher, like, that, like, and that's not an easy job neither, like, depending on the child's needs, right? Like,
yeah, not at all. And I mean, even, being an advocate, I think that I had to separate a lot of that sometimes, and knowing that none of this is truly an emergency, because again, with mediation, we do a safety assessment beforehand too. So if there's any threat, or if we think there's any potential that someone would not be safe in this meeting or would suffer consequences from the other party based on this meeting, we don't do the mediation. That's number one. Like, if they, that's one of the questions we ask on the intake is, do you perceive any power imbalances that may affect your safety, right? Was your partner abusive to you in the past, and the result of this mediation could potentially put you in harm? Absolutely never going to do that. Like, I'm absolutely never going to take that case. You're not a fit because of the safety that's there. So we always do, an assessment in our intake to make sure that...
So it's really in depth. Like, your intake is really in depth.
Yeah.
Okay.
We take in a lot of information before we ever even get to the table. To start talking it out. So all of that.
And that's smart though, because like the safety, and you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I can take this on. Well, no, I can't because this, and this, and...
Yeah. And you just have to be honest with people and tell them, yes, this is a business, right? And yes, this is a practice, but I mean, my ethics and my morals come into play. Like, I would never put someone in harm's way so that I earn a buck. Like, that just would never happen. So if there's any perceived notion that you're not going to be safe as a result of this, then we're never even going to start the case. It's just, at that point, it's just like, I can't take this on. You're not a fit for mediation at this point. So, because that's where, I mean, if you need a restraining order against somebody, you got to go to court for that.
You got to go to court for that one. There's nothing you can do there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's all part of our processes as well, that we're able to qualify people for mediation before we ever even get there.
And the way Canada and the US are starting to argue over these, things that we may be calling on you.
We need the mediators between us. Yes.
So, your website, you have a website, I take it?
Yes, I do have a website.
Do you want to...
Yeah, it's very simple. It's helpmyconflict.com. So,
okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. Now, like, do you have exercises or skills that are available to people that they can practice, maybe, before they go in to see you, or maybe even after they see you? Like, is there any, like, do you give like little practices with each other? Like, if they want to keep trying to build that relationship of co-parenting even?
Yeah, so we talk about that, to keep those lines of communication open and to, you can come back and see me as many times as you want to come back to mediation, right? It's a table that's opened and yeah, if you need something changed, we can come in and get it changed. But yeah, a lot of our coaching aspect of the job as well is to let parents and let people know once they leave, how can we maintain this? So what are we going to do leaving here to make sure that it's successful? So yeah, that's all kind of built into the processes.
So you say you're a private clinic, we'll say. Is it just you working there, or do you have...
So yes, my practice is just me. I do have an assistant who does the admin side of everything. So she's also she's listed on the website, but she does all of the billing and the paperwork side, the admin stuff. But yes, it's just me. And then I also am part of a community of mediators. So if you come to me and you're like, I need somebody to help me mediate my disagreement with my landlord, could do that. That's not my area of specialty, but I know someone who can, right? So we have like a referral network where if I can't help you, I'm pretty sure I can find a mediator that can help you with whatever your dispute may be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add before we take off here? Or...
No, I appreciate your time today. I think I do get excited about spreading the word of how transformational the process can be, and to kind of educate people that you don't have to spend thousands. You don't have to spend months in a court system. You don't have to, abide by someone telling you what to do. You have the power to do that. So I think that's my big mantra, is to empower people to, again, make those conflicts and get to resolution from them on your terms, right? Because you're the one who's going to live with this. I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
going to have
that's
to live
right.
with that co-parent for 18 years. But
Exactly. That's
you.
like the
So
outside person looking in. They're not
they're not.
living with that. You are. You got to think
Well,
long term, right?
yeah, and again, it's very empowering to have those conversations and empower people to do this on your terms, because it's possible, right? It is possible.
Social media links now before we take off. What are
Yes.
your...
So I'm on Instagram as my handle is at the Mediation Pro, and that's my handle on everything. So Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, that's my handle as well. I'm also on Clapper, which is kind of new because of the whole TikTok thing.
I heard about that.
Yeah, that's
I heard
the
about
new
that.
one.
I have to check that out. They actually say it's better than TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot of the same things. There's not as many, I won't say rules to it, but you don't have to constantly keep playing the TikTok games of like, oh, I have to have 1,000 followers to go live, or oh, I have to, there's no unlocking of things. Like, it's just all unlocked for you. So like,
I know
if
that's
you
crazy. 1,000 followers to
yeah,
unlock to go live.
yeah,
Like, you know how long that takes people? Like, we just got
yeah,
a creator fund up here, and I think we need like 50,000 followers before we
yeah.
can apply for it.
It's crazy. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just started that one too. Because again, if TikTok goes away, then that's kind of, and it's all set up exactly the same. So it all looks pretty normal.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
But yeah, I have that, and I also have a Facebook group which is my business name is Clearview Mediation. With my goal behind that is to give you a clear view of your problems and how we can solve them. So that's my Facebook. But yeah, my handle on everything is at the Mediation Pro. For all of the other socials. So,
Pretty straightforward.
yeah.
Bonnie, I want to thank you for coming on and educating me. There was so much I learned in that amount of time already, right?
No, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me.